Welcome back to Are You Smarter Than a Libertarian, the podcast where we don't just defend free speech, we duct tape a megaphone to Lady Liberty and dare the censors to try us. I'm Jeff, your host, your unapologetic voice of reason, and the guy who shows up to college protests just to hand out pocket constitutions and sarcastic applause. Today's episode, Free Speech or Selective Silence, the Campus Crackdown. When administrators panic, donors grin, and students learn what the First Amendment actually means. So grab your overpriced latte and settle in. We're going deep into the hypocrisy so tall of America's finest institutions of higher indoctrination. Oh, I misspoke. I meant education. Sure, let's go with that. Act 1, the Student Uprising. It's fall 2023. Most students are just trying to survive midterms and stretch a Chipotle burrito into 2 meals. But on campuses from Columbia to USC to Harvard, something else was cooking: civil disobedience. Protests erupt over U.S. support for Israel action in Gaza. And no, this wasn't a handful of kids making TikToks for clout. This was thousands of students camping out, marching, chanting, and yes, occasionally annoying their classmates who just wanted to get to organic chemistry without stepping over tents. The movement grew fast, like someone left activism in the microwave too long fast. Tents popped up, chants echoed, quad lawns turned into mini occupation zones. Now, pause. You don't have to agree with their politics. Maybe you think Free Palestine is misguided. Maybe your team IDF all the way. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Because the real issue is this. Over 2,000 students were arrested nationwide. That's right. The same kids who still call their mom for help filling out tax form suddenly got slammed with criminal charges for protesting. Except, and this is my favorite part, most of these charges were dropped for lack of evidence. 245 cases tossed in LA. In Austin, the city attorney literally said officers lacked probable cause, which is one of the core foundations in the Constitution and criminal law. Translation: they were arrested for protesting. Full stop. So when people say, but Jeff, they were trespassing. Yeah, Karen. And Rosa Parks was technically in the wrong seat too. Let's be real. If a charge disappears faster than Joe Biden's train of thought mid-sentence, maybe it wasn't about enforcing rules, it was about optics. Now we get into Act 2 of the shit show, the double standard debate. Now let's talk about what I call the double standard Olympics, where universities compete in mental gymnastics to justify widely different response to student protests. Remember in 2020, COVID, toilet paper, stockpiling, BLM protests on campus? Schools were practically throwing rose petals at protesters, finals canceled, professors issuing statements of solidarity, book clubs forming like Starbucks franchises. You could barely find a syllabus without a Ta-Nehisi Coates reference. Fast forward to 2024. Students protest U.S. foreign policy, and suddenly it's RoboCop meets Dean Warmer. If you get the Dean Warmer joke, you'll understand. We're talking riot squads, mounted police, surveillance drones, and administrators sending out emails like, we support free expression. But also, here's a list of 87 things you can't do while expressing it. Same protesting, different message, wildly different responses. When students say defund the police, they get a TED Talk. When they say free Palestine, they get a police escort to jail. Let me be clear. If you support free speech, it has to apply across the board. The First Amendment, nowhere in it does it say you're free to speak as long as your message polls well in swing states. Now let's get into Act 3, Policy on the Fly. Now let's hit Indiana University, the neighbor to the east. Just hours before a scheduled protest, they updated their protest policy. Hours before the protest. That's like changing the rules of Monopoly mid-game and suddenly deciding luxury tax is $5,000 if your piece has brown hair. What did the new policy say, you might ask? Oh, just the usual Orwellian fluff, ensuring order, maintaining community standards, blah, blah, blah. The kind of language that sounds responsible until you realize it's code for shut up, we're uncomfortable. At the University of Michigan, students were reportedly banned from campus for, get this, using a megaphone. Not blocking exits, not throwing stones, not even being disruptive during class, just amplified speech. Apparently, the administration supports robust dialogue, but only if you whisper it into a pillow while kneeling in a designated speech square. Now let's get to the final act, the Libertarian take. All right, let's bring this all home because this is part one of a three-part shit show. We libertarians, we don't play team sports with speech. We don't say free speech for my side, silence for yours. We say if you want government or a government-funded school to regulate speech, you better be prepared for the sword to swing both ways. Because guess what? Today we're cracking down on free Palestine. Tomorrow it could be end the Fed. Next week it's why are my taxes funding drag brunches at the DMV? You can't give the state power to silence ideas you don't like and then act surprised when it silences yours. Free speech means defending unpopular speech, offensive speech, even cringe speech. Because once speech is filtered through bureaucracy, you're not protected. You're just waiting for the hammer to fall when it's your turn in the crosshairs. This isn't about being pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. It's about being pro-First Amendment. It's about whether American universities, public ones, mind you, funded by taxpayers, get to play thought police while collecting checks from both students and the government. Private colleges, they don't have to follow those rules. All right, so what's next? Coming up in part 2, we get into some really interesting stuff. We dig into the federal government's role in all this. Because when the Department of Homeland Security starts sniffing around your campus protest, it's no longer just a schoolyard scuffle. It's the Patriot Act College Edition. We'll talk Title VI threats, surveillance programs, and why the phrase protected speech is starting to sound like an endangered species. So smash that subscribe button like it's a bureaucrat with a clipboard, comment and share. And remember, just because someone says your speech is offensive doesn't mean it's not protected. And just because someone says it's for your safety doesn't mean it's not censorship with a friendly face and a LinkedIn profile. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay free, stay informed, and stay accountable. New videos drop every day. All my podcasts are available on iHeartRadio Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Are you smarter than a libertarian? In all of them.